I continuously have millipedes in my bedroom. So just a fun fact. Hi everyone, I hope you are well. I hope my neighbors do not come outside. We're going to be doing a summer book haul / library haul / people are loaning books to me haul. Just kind of what I want to read this summer, what I've purchased recently, and maybe some recommendations along the way. The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. But the reason I have this one is because it was kindly gifted to me by Kaylene, who is a viewer. Also, they shipped it priority mail. I don't think I've ever gotten anything in my entire life priority mail. So that in itself made my whole day. Well, where are my scissors? And with that, we've done it. We have gotten it open. It fits perfectly. Just the right size. It says no shelf control. That is so beautiful. Kaylene is the coolest. They sent me this entire beautiful care package that was shipped priority mail. I don't think I've ever gotten anything in my life priority mail. Just full of bookish things and like a vintage blazer that she got that she thought I would love, which I do love, that makes me look like Rory Gilmore. And this is one of her favorite books and she sent it my way. So one, thank you so much, Kaylene. Her Etsy shop and YouTube channel will be linked below and the YouTube channel will be linked above. And thank you for the book. I really cannot wait to read it. It's a beautiful copy and beautiful cover. Next, we have a library book called The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. My friend Charlotte on BookTube has been recommending this book forever, and I just never picked it up because I couldn't find it, but it's at my school library, and I was allowed to check stuff out over the summer. Isn't that amazing? I wasn't allowed to do that at my old school. Anyway, I got it, and I cannot wait. I've actually already started. I'm about a 16th of the way through, but it follows our main character whose name is Cameron. Her parents have recently passed away in like this really tragic accident, and she's coming of age and coming into her own and learning about her sexuality along the way. Okay, we have this secondhand bookshop near us called Second and Charles. I think they have a couple of locations maybe outside of Colorado, not sure. Anyway, I picked up this for a solid $7. This is the complete series of The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. I am a huge Jurassic Park fan, and I really enjoyed Timeline, which is actually another one I bought recently. I'll just show you the cover. But I'm just really hoping I'll enjoy these. My dad says they're really good, and I'm kind of having a sci-fi kick right now. It's like Michael Crichton and Octavia E. Butler are in tandem satisfying my craving for some sci-fi. And then here is that copy of Timeline I mentioned. It takes place in kind of Arizona. There's this quantum time travel aspect, and they go back to medieval France, and they get kind of stuck there and have a bunch of adventures. As you can see, there's a knight on the cover. And then the last thing I got from Second and Charles while we were there this last time, I've been saving up for one of these for ages, and I actually expected to get a different one, but I was recently gifted a little bit of money from my friend for helping him with schoolwork and like tutoring him and everything, and so I had enough to get it, and that is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, which I did read this past spring and adored. There is some racial insensitivity, so just FYI on that, but this is the Mina Lima edition, and it's so beautiful. There are darling illustrations inside, like pop-ups. I'm just a really big fan. Let me find one for you. So here's one of many illustrations in the copy. It's the prettiest book I own officially, and I mentioned I was gonna get a different one. I was planning on getting Peter Pan, but I actually like this cover better, and although I do love Peter Pan, I like the movie better than the book. Maybe unpopular opinion, I don't know. Okay, this one I won. So I think this is a national thing, but I received a book award. You get them like your junior year in public schools. And my book award was for academic achievement and social conscience from St. Michael's College, which I actually don't know much about, but I do know that one of their alumni is Leung, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. She wrote First They Killed My Father, which is a memoir about the Cambodian genocide. It's absolutely devastating, but it was probably the first nonfiction book I read that like really gripped me and that made me really interested to explore and learn beyond its contents. So this is the third book in that trilogy. I haven't read the second, so I'm not going to read this one until I have, but this is Lulu in the Sky by Leung. It details more her experience with depression and trauma after the Cambodian genocide, as well as her finding of love and establishing kind of a new life in the aftermath of horror. This is a library book, public library. I went to the public library. I'll put stuff from a vlog in it eventually, but this is Looking for Lorraine. I actually can't see who the author is because it's covered up by the barcode. So let me see if I can look on the back. By Imani Perry. The Radiant and Radical Life of Lorraine Hansberry. So Lorraine Hansberry wrote A Raisin in the Sun, which I actually haven't read because I'm terrible, but I'll get around to eventually, I really hope. I know it's required reading for a lot of schools, but I went to a magnet school for my freshman year of high school, and so I missed out on like Raisin in the Sun. What else did I miss out on? Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird, didn't read that, so gotta catch up. But I know of Lorraine Hansberry through her associations with James Baldwin and her civil rights activism and work. So I cannot wait to read this to learn more about her extraordinary life and her artistry, and I'm just so excited. Continuing on the trend of public library books, we have The Gods of Tango by Carolina de Robertis. This one sounds so good. I picked it up. It was on the display for Pride Month books. And I don't know if you can tell, the cover is dazzling. It's people dancing together. I don't know too much about this one. I know it's about our main character, whose name is Lida. And she is from, I want to say Italy. And she moves from Italy to Argentina, I think, to get married, and then finds out that her groom has been murdered or he's passed away somehow. And so she's kind of stranded in this new country by herself and starts to dance. She picks up tango as an art form and as a career path. I think that this is a story of gender identity, so I think they end up finding their chest, cutting their hair, and I think that this might be a trans story. So I'm really looking forward to it. Won the Stonewall Award, I think, in 2016, so something else to take note of. This one is actually for a conversation I'm having in July with the literary Gladiators, whose channel will also be linked below. This is Serotonin by, it's French. It was translated from French. And I was actually going to buy this one because it's helpful when you're having book discussions to have the book in front of you. But I looked it up, right? And right below the link to purchase it was an essay or an article about the book itself. And the title was like, Serotonin, Lonely White Men, and I was like, oh, maybe this is a library one. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I just read the back, and it says the work's themes include the effects of antidepressants on the male libido, which, you know, but it'll be something new. Oh my god, sorry. I'm excited to read it, I guess. Question mark? We'll see. And then I got two like tiny books from the cinema movie history section of the library because that's my thing. So I have here like a 5th grade level reading, but sometimes it's good to have those, you know. The Economics of Making a Movie, and it has lots of blockbustery pictures on the front. It's nothing so far. I'm already like halfway through. It's tiny. It's not stuff I do not know, but it's good to kind of have the reinforcement and kind of read about examples, which is neat. I work at the movie theater, so I'm pretty involved with the distribution side and the screening side of film and cinema, as long as it pertains to popcorn and pretzel bites. I'm so good at making pretzel bites. On my first day, I made like 12 pretzel bites. It was amazing. And my boss has told me that if I stay for a while, get through the holiday season, he'll teach me about projectors and how they work and how to queue up movies and audio levels and interacting with studio heads. So that'll be really cool. I'm really excited for that. I want to be a film editor and director if you're new here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing this one. And I also have Hollywood of the Rockies. So I live in Colorado. This is Colorado. Well, this is a table with books, but you know, behind you is Colorado. When the movie industry was really kicking off in the United States, it didn't actually start in Hollywood, California. It has roots in Colorado and Denver and the Rocky Mountains because Western films were so popular at the time, and Colorado just has a really beautiful natural landscape. It's also pretty sunny here generally. It'll be fun. It's cool to learn about where you live as it pertains to your passions. And I think learning about local history is so important. And we don't actually do that a lot. I really wish we did. Okay, I've already read this one, but we can talk about it. The Invisible Life of Addie Larue, the book that split BookTube and BookTok and Bookstagram in two. Had a bit of controversy revolving the lack of people of color in the story because our main characters lived for 300 years, I think, and she interacts with a person of color once. which is absolutely ridiculous, just like realistically does not make any sense. And it also has its fair share of historical revisionism and romanticization. It's a very white book, so keep that in mind when you're reading it. That doesn't mean that you won't enjoy it or that you shouldn't pick it up. It's just something to keep in mind. If you're looking for diverse representation, at least racially or culturally, this might not be it, although it does have some LGBTQ+ rep. The Invisible Life of Addie Larue follows our main character, Addie, who makes a deal with the devil, pretty much. She effectively sells her soul in exchange for eternal life, so long as she's willing to keep her life. The catch, though, is that nobody remembers her. Like, if they turn around and go to another room and come back, they'll have no idea who this strange woman is standing in their house. So it's a pretty devastating existence, but also an exhilarating one, because she's able to experience the evolution of technology and art and storytelling. But then one day, she goes to a bookstore, and this guy remembers her name, and it's about their stories, how they intertwine with one another, how they affect one another and their outlooks on life. This was from a different trip to 2nd and Charles. This was right after my interview for my movie theater position. They're right next to each other, so that'll be maybe a little bit of a problem when I get my first paycheck, but I'll be fine. I'll be fine. We'll learn financial literacy together. This is the selected poems of Emily Dickinson. I wanted the full edition, the unselected, I guess, just everything that she's written. I couldn't find one though. And this is a beautiful copy. It's like faux leather. It has a rose on the back, and it's in pristine condition. It's not very old. I love Emily Dickinson. I love poetry, and I've never just really sat down and read her poems as a collection. I'd find one on the internet, or I'd read it offhandedly at school or on a standardized test, and so I think it's time that I really dip my toes in and submerge myself in the wonderful works and legacy of Emily Dickinson. Also, I love Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift loves Emily Dickinson, so I had to. Autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley, as told to Alex Haley. Classic piece of leftist lit that I have not yet read. So I'm really looking forward to it. Malcolm X was incredible, and I want to learn more about him outside of the context of moderate/conservative public education propaganda. I'm really looking forward to reading this. I think I'll learn a lot about Malcolm X, but also about the civil rights movement and social justice movements in general. And it's important to have, in my opinion, a strong foundation of education upon which to base your own activism. So it'll be great. I got this at Barnes & Noble when I went there with my grandma, because it was the only book I could find under $10, and I only had $8, so worked out. I'm borrowing this one from a friend, and I posted about it on my Instagram story. Feel free to follow me on there if you want. I posted about it on there, and my friend Hannah and my friend Harley both messaged me, and they were like, oh my god, we love this book. So I'm really excited. Thank you for letting me borrow it, Austin. This is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, who is like the coolest. She went to Brown for Latin and ancient Greek, which is super cool. I think I'm about a fourth of the way through, and I'm adoring it so far. I love the writing style. I love the story. I love that it's being told through the point of view of a lesser known or lesser emphasized figure in Greek mythology. It's just, it's amazing. All right, this one, and then I have to move you because you're sitting on top of like my last 6 books that I have to talk about, so we'll figure it out. I mentioned this in my last video. This is Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen by Golani, and this is about Hawaii and Hawaiian culture and the fight for Hawaiian independence in light of its annexation executed by the United States. Golani was the last sovereign monarch of Hawaii that was recognized, at least by the US, and I think that this will just be an incredible account of indigenous culture and fights for independence from American imperialism. Golani was also the only, the singular Asian American / Pacific Islander figure to be mentioned in my AP US history class, which is really messed up. But when we learn about an individual figure, I always try and go out and learn more. So I immediately looked up books about her, which I think I also mentioned in the last video, books maybe she'd written. I found this one. It's like a textbook, kind of, but I'm so excited. This was published in 1898, so potentially, maybe not. I was going to say potentially the oldest book I've read so far this year, but I think I read one in the 1850s, and I'm really looking forward to this. Okay. I think that'll work. I moved you, so let's do our last view, and then we'll be done for today. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Alexi Sherman. Alexi, had it backwards. So in my experience, whenever I'm working with my student equity group or students organized against racism, with teachers talking about the lack of representation and diversity and inclusivity in English curriculum, this is always the book they bring up as, but we're teaching this, because this is the sole Indigenous story, Native story that is discussed at my school. The only one. And while I'm really glad there is one, the problem lies in the fact that it is the only one and it is used as a token for diversity. And we were working with an English teacher who I adore named Mr. Eggleston, who's just the absolute greatest, on creating new curriculum for next year. And this book was repeated 3 times in 3 different grade levels, because I think that teachers or the school or people who are in charge of creating the curriculum are not doing what they need to be doing. They're not reading books that they claim to care about, stories that matter and that reflect their students. So I am excited to read this. I know it's really popular in high school, maybe in middle school as well. I think my sister's grade read it in 8th grade. But this is about Junior, who is growing up on an Indian reservation, and Sherman Alexie, I'm sorry, I can't talk, is just a really well-renowned author. My school does have a couple more of their books in the diversity section of the library, so I'm hoping to check those out when the school year starts anew. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I'm really looking forward to it. I also quite like the cover. I think it's very creative. Okay, these 2 are mildly embarrassing because I've definitely been reading them both for like 4.5 months. What can I say? You know, junior year was something, man. This is still The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm so close. Look at that. I have like 150 pages and I'm really enjoying it. I hope to finish it soon. Maybe we can talk about it in its own little video, which would be dandy. My only complaint this far is pacing. I feel like the pacing's a little bit off, not drastically so, and it's definitely off in most other fantasy magic system-y books that I've read, but I was much younger when I read them and didn't really notice. So that's one thing that stands out a bit, but I especially loved the beginning when our main character Rin was training at school or preparing for her exams. It has great commentary on meritocracies and inequity and warfare in general. I definitely recommend this. I totally understand why it's hyped up, and I'm really excited to finish it and continue on with the series. I don't really read series that much. It takes a little bit of oomph for the first book for me to be even interested in the second, so that's high praise. That's high praise. Definitely read. And then the other one that I've been working on for absolutely ever that is checked out on my friend Austin's library account, so thank you, Austin, is because I checked out so many books. Isn't that embarrassing? Anyway, It's Five Came Back by Mark Harris, and this is another Hollywoodish one. I really want to read a Hollywood book that's not by or about white men, so if you have any recommendations, let me know. I know my library has one about Chinatown and its influences on Hollywood, so I'll have to check that out. But this one is about 5 directors, including John Ford and George Stevens, who went to war during World War II, and how it impacted and changed the directions of their films and directorial styles, and how those in turn impacted the future of the film industry. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really not far, but I love history. I'm a bit of a history nerd, so anything that's 1, history, and 2, something I'm passionate about, in this case film, is right up my alley. 2 more, and then we're done. Silas Marner by George Eliot. I haven't read anything by George Eliot. I know about her because I started a book a while ago that was pretty good. My library checkout time just expired, so I'll have to pick it up again. But it was about the relationships between women in the literary world around the time of, Mark Twain and Hemingway, because you know about all like the famous male friendships and Fitzgerald, but you never really hear about female friendships in the literary world. You hear about female recluses like Virginia Woolf, Emily Dickinson, but you don't hear about their friendships, and George Eliot was mentioned in that book, so I found this at the library and I thought I'd check it out. I really don't know anything about it. It was the shortest one at the library, and I checked it out during finals, so I was really trying to get some short books that I could enjoy quickly. Clearly I didn't finish, so have this to work on over the summer. And then the last book I have for you guys today is Pet. I can easily see this becoming a staple of YA fiction, kind of in a similar way as The Hunger Games, just in that it has it's sci-fi / fantasy / dystopia with just really vivid and clear and unmistakable connections and reflections to and of our current world and societal woes and issues and injustices. Turtle Dove is chasing a magpie. Perhaps even more so in this one, though, because the diversity and liberation inclusivity is even more so. Our main character is Black. This is her. I believe she's also trans. She has just a wonderfully accepting family. Art is a big part of their lives. It's about the distinction between angels and monsters, and like, what is that distinction, and how have we internalized said distinction throughout our lives. So those are all the millions of trillions of books that I'm reading this summer that I've either purchased or borrowed or checked out. I try to check out most of my books. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for bearing with me and the potentially atrocious audio. We'll see. I hope it's not too bad. I tried to talk a little louder, but thank you for being here and for being wonderful. And I'm almost monetized, you guys. That's insane. So thank you for supporting me and my work and my art. You're wonderful and I love you all. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.